You're listening to the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast, the place where faith, music, and life intersect. We exist to help Christian indie artists and songwriters just like you get songs heard. Hey, my name is Bryan, and you are listening to the very first episode of the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast. Now, this is an idea that I've had stirring around in my heart for quite some time, but recently just felt like it was time to do it, time to conquer the imposter syndrome, which we will cover in a different episode, and just go ahead and do this thing. So I'm excited you're here. Thank you for being here. I hope that you get a ton of value, enjoyment, maybe even a couple giggles out of this thing. So today, I just wanted to start off this entire series, this entire process, this entire podcast show with a little bit about me, which of course is something that I don't necessarily love to talk about because, I'm a bass player, so I'm cool with being in the background and never seeing the light of day. But, I figure this is a great place, the origin story, if you will. So just to kind of get started, I really got into music when I was a teenager back in the 90s. And I just, I had a friend who played guitar and naturally wanted to start a band. So I was like, hey, you are great at playing guitar, playing Metallica, so I should learn to play bass because that's something that we need in a band. And when I first picked up the bass guitar, I really didn't like it. In fact, I hated it because it destroyed my fingers. I used to try to play with a thumb pick. I tried to play with a quarter, and that resulted in slamming the bass under the bed in my room. Fast forward a little bit, I ended up listening. One of my favorite bands at the time was Green Day, and they had a song called Brain Stew, which if you know the song, you know that it's an extremely simple song. And once I was able to play along with that, it was like the heavens opened up for me. And honestly, ever since then, since I was about 15 years old, I've never really stopped playing. And, naturally through that progression, I played bass, then I wanted to write songs. So in our band, we wrote songs together, and I played with my friends in a band for 6 or 7 years, and it was amazing. We had so many great adventures, so many fun stories, and so much bonding time. And just through that process, just learning how to be in a band, the dynamic of that, how to write songs together, it was just a really important part of my personal story. So after those 7 years, my bandmates and I decided to call it quits with the band. We had so much fun. We didn't have some sort of crazy epic band rock and roll breakup, but we just decided to take a break, and who knows, maybe we'll get back together one day and play again. But one of the most incredible things about that journey is I actually had invited my now wife of 11 years, Susie, to come to one of my band shows. And, music has always played a very important role in my life personally. But I would say that meeting Susie through the band is the greatest gift of the music that I will ever receive. So you never know how God will bring things together when you're on his path. Like I said, I met Susie through the band, and she actually came to a bunch of shows. Ironically, though, she didn't actually come to the show I invited her to, but hey, it worked out in the end. So that was in 2007. So after that, we started attending a local church around here and really fell in love with the music. And that kind of led into volunteering, and then ended up being on staff at the church for over 6 years. And there was such an incredible amount of just lessons learned and so much fun and so many amazing experiences with God that I will, carry with me and cherish for the rest of my life. And that kind of leads us to today, where out of that season of leading worship and being a creative arts pastor, God sort of started opening doors in the production realm, and writing songs for church and writing songs for my own artistry and helping produce other artists' songs. So back in March of 2020, at the time of this episode, that was just a few months ago now, we went full-time into our production company, which is called Bryan Boliver Music, and we do things from helping artists take their songs from work tape to release ready master. So that's every part of the process, from helping with writing, helping with recording. We do remote production, so tracking and editing and programming, then mixing, then mastering, then ultimately helping with the release process. So as people are looking to figure out how to navigate this streaming environment, we want to help with that process. So we do webinars, we put out free content, we just do everything we can to serve the Christian indie artists and songwriters community. And honestly, that's a big reason why this podcast is in existence, because we feel like this is another way to do that exact thing. Because, the Christian indie artists community is smaller, and also just the Christian music industry in general is a small piece of the overarching industry. However, there's so many valid stories, there's so much power, and I personally believe that, the Bible tells us to go and share the gospel with all the land, and the way that we do that as songwriters and artists is through our music. So we want to help that process for as many people as possible. So that's really one of the big inspirations behind our company and serving this community. So that's a really quick overview of my personal music journey. So now that's the who, so this is the what. What is this podcast all about? What can you expect? So there'll be a lot of different things covered, but it's all centered around Christian indie artists and songwriters. So that might mean solo episodes with me explaining the Spotify algorithm. We could be talking about songwriting. We could be talking about mindset approaches, or we could be talking about social media marketing. Anything that would help you on your personal journey is what we're going to talk about. Now, also, we're going to have many interviews with other Christian indie artists and songwriters, because I believe there's so much power in our story, and I want to be able to use this platform to share people's stories about how God has led them to doing what they're doing. Getting to hear the stories and inspirations and motivations behind other artists, I feel, is a really important way for us to grow as a community as a whole. So who is this podcast for? Well, it's for Christian indie artists and songwriters. That might mean you're a worship leader, you might be on a worship team, you might write songs as a worship artist. Anything that has to do with music for the Lord is exactly who this podcast is for. By giving wisdom and tips to help people get songs heard by the world is exactly why we exist. Like I said in the intro, this is the place where faith, music, and life intersect. So that can cover a wide variety of things, and we're excited to have you along this ride with us. If you have any questions at all, or would like to hear specific topics, or people that you would recommend, or even yourself to like to be interviewed, just send an email to contact@bryanboliver.com, and we'd love to hear from you, and we want to add value. We never want the episodes just to be long, or short to be short. Every episode should be packed full of information to help you along your music journey. So I wanted to thank you so much for being a part of this first episode, and we look forward to covering many more, and we will talk to you soon. We want to help reach as many Christian indie artists and songwriters as possible, and one way we can do that is with your help. So if you could take a minute and leave us a review on iTunes, that would be so appreciated. This is how the iTunes algorithm will push this content out to more and more Christian indie artists and songwriters. So like I said, if you could just take a couple seconds, leave us a review, that would be so awesome, means so much to us, and we would really appreciate it.